So what is the drama between CodComedytj and Gypsycrusader? Who CodComedytj is, he used to be a live streamer in the United Kingdom, and what ended up happening was that he had really poor and mistreatment by the police in the United Kingdom, and what ended up happening was he would also later on start to, I wouldn't necessarily call it drama, but just sort of talk and expose Gypsycrusader as a quote-unquote pedo. And I think the drama between the two is very, I guess, interesting between the two communities and how they've both responded, with some people saying, being for Gypsycrusader, saying that CodComedytj is a hypocrite, and that even though Gypsy has obviously done some weird stuff in the past, especially what he's done by talking to children online when he shouldn't really been saying all these like weird stuff. I think he may have been, I guess, a bit more aroused, so to speak, but yeah, I think the drama between them two I will cover probably later on in this video. But I wanted to talk specifically just at this point about CodComedytj and what ended up happening and sort of summarise his legal case. So I'm just going to be reading up a summary of the first video that he made about him being arrested, and then I'll probably cover his latest video that he's done on Gypsycrusader and sort of just talk about it and sort of break it down, because I think there are some aspects of, I guess, the difference between the two communities and what's ended up happening with them being a little bit more divided. So first off, I want to talk about CodComedytj's legal case. Now, before I get into this video, I'm not harassing anyone. I just want to just sort of give my thoughts, because I kind of just want to break some stuff down, like I said, because there's a few details here and there from both of these streamers. So what happened with TJ was, around on his first arrest, he ended up saying, and I remember actually watching the live stream, or I guess the interview that I had the first time he got arrested by this guy called Nagbeta. I can't remember his name, but he's anyways this Russian guy, and I think he interviews people who are, I guess, in these type of community, these types of streams. And what he would talk about was when he was first arrested, because in the United Kingdom it's actually illegal to actually do these types of streams. You know, it was kind of what he actually ended up doing, and sorry I forgot to actually talk about this, he would be doing these kind of shot comedy. So he would do like very racist stuff, where he would pretty much do like blackface and all these other things that come with just sort of doing this type of content, because sort of during, I guess, the lockdowns and to do with the BLM riots, a lot of people ended up doing a lot of these types of streams, especially when it comes down to other people like Catboy Cammy as well. So to do with TJ's legal case, like I said, he was doing these types of illegal streams and streaming on these illegal content. And obviously you can see this happening in the UK. Like, for example, this is quite similar to a channel, crime-bodge, if you don't know, this guy called Rob Warner, if I can pronounce his name. He pretty much did talk about all the corruption of the United Kingdom police. Again, I'm not doing this to like harass anyone, I'm just sort of just talking about this. And it would just talk about all these people getting unlawfully arrested, the harassment that people in the United Kingdom would get off certain types of police stations, and sort of like, I guess, the corruption, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, I'm just going to actually read out something just because I wanted to focus on this a little bit more about what ended up happening with how the police tracked TJ the first time he streamed, and then the second time why he got arrested. But this was offline off the internet, where TJ would end up being put in handcuffs, but this time he would be quote-unquote tackled. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to read out what's actually happened. So for example, this is kind of the points that he would talk about in the video of what happened after the first couple of arrests, and especially what happened during when he was on a flight to go meet his girlfriend. I will cover that a little bit later on. So I just want to talk about this first. So TJ faced serious threats and had to call non-emergency line for his local police to report people threatening to swat him. After being falsely accused and having all his devices taken, the speaker had to start over and even found his front door missing upon return. So in the video, he would actually talk about him actually being really frustrated because he literally had his door like blocked. So if you don't know what happened, what ended up happening was, and I found this was a little bit odd, where he would pretty much have his door like pretty much just a plank of wood that would just be nailed on the sides of the, I guess, the door frame of his front door. And the problem with this, he couldn't access his home, so he literally had to jump over his neighbours' fences all over, and it was like very frustrating for him. So literally, if he wanted to go out for some milk, he'd have to literally do that all over again. And some of his neighbours had barbed wire fencing, so that would have been, you know, a little bit painful, especially, you know, to do all of that. So it's pretty crazy of what ended up happening with TJ. The police dropped the entire investigation based on anonymous information, leaving the person in debt and with destroyed property. TJ also claimed that he had around, I guess, $3 in debt now, because the police smashed his door in and he had to, you know, tell his landlord, or his landlord had to tell him that he has to pay this certain amount of money because he obviously had his doors kicked in, and to replace it would cost him around £3,000, which is very, very expensive. And in the video, if you want, you can go in the link in the description below and actually just watch the full video. He even claims that as well, because of the damages, he also noticed that he didn't really get any compensation for this as well. And it really shows, like, the, you know, the no accountability for the amount of damage that has caused, you know, TJ. Especially because, you know, where is the accountability for getting a warrant signed by a judge with zero proof of evidence? So what ended up happening is, and I'm going to share this here, if I go on something called Crime Stoppers, pretty much what this website is in the United Kingdom is you could go onto this site and you can go, like, give anonymous information. You can just give, you know, any types of, you know, anyone who is, you know, potentially committing crime, supposedly. And what ends up happening is you can pretty much just sign this form, and I'm even looking at it now and, like, yeah, you could pretty much just say whatever you want, the purse codes, all the types of details that you would give someone if you were, you know, saying that they would actually end up, you know, committing crime. And the problem is that someone signed this. The police in his local area, which he said there was, like, this event that would happen where people were getting their doors kicked in and they were do a mass arrest of criminals. What's ended up happening is there's been this report of him doing illegal stuff online, and then a cop have probably looked at this and thought, oh, this is great, this is a good idea for him to get his doors booted in. Which sounds like pretty horrific, that anyone could literally just type in a box that you're doing a crime, like saying, oh yeah, I'm doing so and so, or illegal activity, and you literally just get your doors kicked in. It's insane, because how can you literally go off on anonymous information that pretty much there's no, like, any type of, you know, email or phone number? It's literally just a box that you can type. Well, when it means box, because I did get confused what I mean by box, is literally all of the, you know, the crime or the incidents. It says where it took place, the city or the town or the postcodes, the, you know, specific, you know, the property number, the road number, what happens, what you saw with the crime, a person was responsible for the crime, all their details, so anyone could have written, oh, like, TJ was doing so and so. Like, for example, in her latest videos that he's also said that apparently the guy who did the Christian streams was one of his friends, actually ended up saying that, admitting that he ended up doxing him. So it's literally just gotten to a point where someone from America who isn't in the UK has literally just signed this sheet. So this is actually just, like, ridiculous. I mean, for all we know, it could have been a cop, but apparently the guy who has admitted to sending this information to the police, even though he's not from the UK and he hasn't actually saw TJ commit any crime. So literally all the details that have come into this, and you can pretty much just give this. So this comes down to the warrant again, because what ended up happening was the police would see this and then they wanted a warrant to go search his place, so they would have the court sign the warrant. But the problem is, because there was zero evidence that he was doing this stuff. I mean, yeah, they got him on the hate charge, but because he was doing something to do with, like, the hate speech laws, because the UK are very strict on this. But TJ at the time when he first started didn't actually know it was actually illegal. So he ended up, obviously, the first time he got arrested, he knows now that the type of content what he was doing was illegal, and he ended up trying to do streaming again, and then he was on a full internet and device ban. It also claims in the video of what ended up happening the first time he got arrested, and then after a couple of other times. They found nothing illegal at all, yet his warrant was executed for essentially zero reason with zero proof, as I mentioned before. Being detained as a T-word, we'll just say, without any evidence or reason is a terrifying experience. The police claims to know the speaker better than his girlfriend, accusing him of being a scumbag and even questioning if he had kidnapped her. So in the video as well, he also claims that what ended up happening when he was arrested, the second or third time he was arrested, sort of after a couple of years he stopped streaming, he hasn't made anything publicly. What ended up happening was he would go fly out to his girlfriend and then come back, would be detained, and then they would contact his girlfriend and his girlfriend's family, calling him the T-word. Now it's just something that he has done in the past. You know, they didn't say, oh, they was just doing some silly streams. They literally just said, oh wow, yeah, oh yeah, he's a T-word by the way. And this would also not just affect him and his girlfriend, and this could have impacted his girlfriend as well, as he claimed. He said that it could have been, what if their family would have found out on site, because they actually met TJ, so they know he wasn't a T-word. So literally it was getting to the point where TJ was literally, you know, shitting his pants, because he was literally just so stressed about what not only his girlfriend being affected or anyone associated with him, but imagine if they never met him and he said, oh yeah, his girlfriend is dating a so-and-so to his girlfriend's family and also to a local police, not only to her landlord. So literally she was renting as well of what COD Comedy TJ claimed. So literally it was just a case of him being like, oh, not only is he affected, but also his girlfriend and her family were affected by this, now his fiance. So it's literally come down to pretty much what they would end up doing was they would end up pretty much accusing of her being kidnapped, saying that the police, when she arrived at her own country, because they whisked her off because TJ was being taken away, and that whole situation with him and his girlfriend not being able to see each other and sort of being separated, and even her being sent back to her original country, which is, you know, pretty ridiculous that this type of situation is even happening in the first place, all because of some silly streams that I did a couple of years ago. You know, the government's actions of flagging the speaker as a T-word and kicking it in their door without any reason is unacceptable. And this isn't just about all of the things that TJ has experienced, but this has also affected him personally. So for example, the experience of being arrested and questioned by the police can be extremely traumatic and confusing, especially when it happens unexpectedly. Living with constant surveillance and the fear of being detained without reason is very anxious and uncertain life. Constant bombarding from government agencies and warrants executed for arrests and the destruction of belongings for no reason is too much to handle. So TJ has obviously experienced a lot of trauma with this, and he's also claims that he's also on the spectrum. He is a little bit autistic, as he would describe himself. And because this would affect him personally, I do think this is really, like I said, impacting him not just financially, but also his property and also himself and his girlfriend and her family. So this is obviously a ridiculous situation. I wanted to sort of bring up again crime-bodge, because I did mention him a little bit previously before I started to ramble about COD Comedy TJ. And crime-bodge would talk about all the police corruption and crime, and what ended up happening with Rob Warner, which was like a personal story where his missus would accuse. And if I can remember correctly from watching a video why I started crime-bodge, the reason was that these two police officers came round because his missus or his ex-missus's partner would accuse him of something and then end up them searching the property, but he just let them in the house and they were just literally opening drawers without a warrant or anything, which was like really disturbing. And this sort of really impacted Rob Warner, and this sort of where it comes down to how the UK police operate. Again, I'm not anti-police or anything, but I do see the problems and the corruption that come from especially these types of people that have happened. And you can sort of see all the other videos that Rob Warner has done. So for example, he's talked about all these people being unlawfully arrested, and it's so important. Like, this is why free speech is so important, because you have to be able to know how to defend yourself, especially legally, because a lot of people don't know how to do this. If the police start harassing you, start like accusing you of stuff you haven't done, all of those things are really important to actually educate yourself just enough on the law. You don't have to know literally everything, but just enough that you know how to defend yourself, especially when the police accuse you of something. How you actually been able to talk in the interview and other things like that. I think crime-bodge has actually made some really good videos on this. And whilst being a little bit paranoid because I've seen people criticise him for being that, I can sort of understand why he does these types of videos as well. But anyway, that was just an example of someone talking about the UK police and all the problems they've had with them personally, and especially to do with their family life as well, being constantly harassed and being anxious and like having a warrantless that someone can just kick in their door and being able to, like I said, just harass them. And this kind of comes down into the second part I actually wanted to cover, was CodComedytj versus Gypsycrusader, because you've seen the two communities sort of go off. So for example, when TJ made the video about Gypsycrusader experience, he's made about 3 of them because the first 2 were a little bit incoherent, but the final part that I wanted to talk about early in this video that I mentioned was him talking about how Gypsy would talk to young girls online, and he would pretty much do all these types of like real creepy stuff. He would do suicide roleplay, and I've seen the video before, and I've seen all the screenshots of Gypsycrusader exposed and about all the other things, and I think TJ is, well, kind of like a hypocrite. Not in the sense that of what he's gone through is, but more to do with actually being him, you know, coming out with his stuff and sort of not just attacking Gypsy, but more to do with him, you know, him doing the same type of content he did during streaming during the 2020, and him coming out and, you know, making an exposed video on him. And to be honest, TJ didn't really prove anything in the video. I've watched it. You can go in the description or even just look up CodComedytj. And I do think he is hypocritical in that sense, because he didn't really, like I said, prove anything. He only showed screenshots of Gypsy talking to young underage girls, which obviously is very inappropriate, completely, you know, degenerate behaviour. I do agree on this with TJ, but when it comes down to the hypocrisy there, it's like, oh, so you'll criticise CodComedytj or criticise Gypsycrusader, but you won't, you know, he did the type of content himself, and he probably still has the same beliefs. But yeah, this kind of goes down to what TJ was trying to talk about Gypsy. Obviously, yes, he has done degenerate behaviour, but there is sort of the hypocrisy there, is at least. I don't mind him exposing, obviously, TJ exposing Gypsycrusader, but I can see the hypocrisy there. And I've seen between 2 of the fan bases, for example, I've seen some people say, and I'll even get this up, about Gypsy actually being able to address the allegations, and he didn't really debunk them either. He just said that there were a couple of allegations of him just saying about all the screenshots that he would show and about the ages. Oh, she was actually 18, and there were a few. He would pretty much, Gypsycrusader would have a bunch of girlfriends, how many girlfriends he had underage, and it's kind of just a little bit ridiculous. I don't really understand between the 2 about, oh, like who's what and who's this, because like I said, it's a bit incoherent. But I can tell from the screenshots that obviously Gypsy has done some very degenerate behaviour. Again, I'm not personally like a Gypsy fan. I just, yeah, I found his old streams. I didn't even know who he was up until like a couple, like last year, because I watched a few of his old streams. And yeah, he would talk to people online and obviously go on Omegle, which is where he first started, and also start talking about this and all the, you know, all the red pill things that he would do. I've actually brought up a video here that I've actually got about type of the community from Gypsy and CodComedytj, and sort of just talk about other things that people would have written about, you know, TJ making this video, and sort of Gypsy's pretty much his part that he would pretty much address the allegations, even on the live stream. And obviously he didn't clear too many things up because he didn't really debunk any of the screenshots. He kind of just showed the pictures, but I'm not really going to take sides here. I just kind of just want to talk about the community specifically, about what everyone thinks of him. So for example, I'll read a few sort of like a couple of sentences that people have written, and probably like a few paragraphs here and there. So for example, there was this guy here who said, "Why is CJ doing this? I can't understand his logic. If he's being truthful about his legal problems, it seems like he is taking a risk interacting with his community at all. Why is he so hell-bent on tearing down Gypsy? He's got a real deal with the feds. He's not even allowed on the internet. It really does seem like he's come back to damage the movement. Pisses me off how he keeps saying he's autistic and just did the streams of comedy. Nobody goes as far as he did in the streams without having a shred of belief in what they were saying. He was in it for the bucks, and publicly, he and his admins got caught scamming his fans, with him promising he was going to do streams again, because, you know, he obviously was saying he didn't have any money, and later screenshot show he did have thousands of money and never did a stream. Yeah, I watched the whole scam happen. One day I asked if in chat if anyone had actually seen the private streams and instantly got banned on all of the telegrams. Fucking sad who see who TJ really is. I'm glad Gypsy isn't letting the bullshit get to him. So obviously you sell people from Gypsy's community is arguing with, well, not arguing, but also just feeling really disappointed and angry at TJ for making this video about quote-unquote exposing Gypsycrusader. Now, I don't think Gypsy is really, obviously he's degenerate in that type of sense that he was, you know, talking to girls this way, but I think it was just sort of like weird role play and he was just kind of horny, but I'm not really going to justify his actions. It's more to do with the allegations, because CodComedyTJ claims that he was grooming underage children, and there are some other allegations and back and forths here and there, and it just get, like I said, get very incoherent. But it's more to do with kind of how the community's reacted. Obviously people are very pissed off at TJ for doing this, and he's obviously trying to hurt the quote-unquote movement. But yeah, it was to do with all of being able to look at both of the communities, and obviously a lot of people are on TJ's side saying that he's really brave and saying that like people for not really, you know, watch Gypsycrusader anymore and stop watching him because of all the horrible stuff that he's, you know, said allegedly to children. And yeah, it's very difficult to kind of know who's telling the truth, but I can tell you one thing, that Gypsy has done some degenerate stuff. But I also think CodComedyTJ is just as bad, because he's obviously made a video about exposing he's even exposed himself, but also exposing Gypsycrusader. I also don't understand why he's done this, because it's very, I'm not sure even if he's been unbanned from the internet, so him doing this is, like this person said that I read out, is very risky for him to do this type of, I guess, content. But yeah, anyway, time will tell, like, even if he does get his doors booted in. But he even said in his video that when he got his doors booted in the last time, he doesn't know if it's going to happen again, so he's obviously taking a massive risk coming on that. He knows the risk, that he knows that if he comes back on the internet, he has the potential to, you know, like I said, be arrested again. So I'm not sure what his legal issue is there. I don't know, because he did say, for example, I watched Martin's Perspective interview about him talking about to TJ about interviewing what happened, what he went through, and all the other details. That when it came down to his arrest, he also said about him just sort of being just in limbo, like he's only been done for, I guess, encouraging racial hatred or something. I think that's what they said to him. And the police in the police station have the power to put this charge on him, but he hasn't really been charged, it's just pending investigation. So obviously legally we don't really know what's actually going on with TJ, whether he will get arrested or even be done for this hate charge as well. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video about me talking about both of the communities and how people have responded and what's happened between them, about TJ's hypocrisy from doing this, making its exposed video and getting as far as he did with all these streams, especially doing all the silly, I guess, racial stuff. But I don't know, I think when it comes down to these two communities, obviously there is a lot more bigger divide than there was last time before. Well, there wasn't really a divide, it was more to do with, you know, people would follow TJ and people would follow Gypsy, but obviously people probably broken off. And hopefully TJ gets his legal sorted out, and also what happens, especially when it comes down to all the allegations, especially around Gypsycrusader. And the latest video that he made was a little bit more coherent, because you could actually see like the times. He even did like some maths about the people who would meet, like 15, like really, like come on, like for example, I think there was another aspect of hypocrisy there where he would talk to children, because I've actually seen his old streams and I know he has talked to people who weren't of age, and he was sort of just saying stuff to them and all this. So would that make him I guess a child groomer? No, of course it wouldn't. And obviously to do with age and consent, but I'm not going to go down that too far. I'm just going to talk about, yeah, that type of a hypocrisy of doing all those types of streams and then all of a sudden just coming after Gypsy for no reason. But yeah, anyway, you can sort of see what the communities have thought about him, and sort of like I said, there is a divide there.